Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast, where you'll find insight, analysis, and the story behind the numbers.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Hindu Business Line's State of the Economy podcast series. Today, we have with us Mr. Naveenn Khandelwal, the CEO of BrightNight India, a renewable power producer. The U.S. headquartered BrightNight is a renewables integrated power company with operations in the U.S, India, Australia, and Bangladesh. It offers utility as well as commercial and industrial customers with clean and dispatchable renewable power solutions. Naveen here heads BrightNight's operations in India. With over 2 decades of experience in the energy sector, 16 years of which have been devoted just to renewables, Naveen has played a key role in building gigawatt-scale wind and solar platforms, contributing to portfolios that now exceed 7 gigawatts. His strategic mindset has helped raise more than $3 billion in capital, which has been directed towards projects that prioritize energy security and decarbonization. Today, we want to discuss an important issue with Naveen. As all of us know that India has an ambitious commitment in the renewable sector, and that commitment of 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel power by 2030 can only be achieved with collaboration with clean energy producers having operations in several geographies. Here, firms such as BrightNight have experience of operating in both developing and developed economies, which can aid Indian consumers and entities in adopting the best practices in these regions. Besides, companies in India and the US can collaborate to advance the installation of renewable energy sources in both the geographies. So, without taking much more time, let's hear from Naveen how India can gain from BrightNight's experience. Hello, Naveen, and welcome to the State of Economy podcast.
Hi, Rishi. Hi. Thank you. Nice to be on the podcast.
Great to have you here, Naveen. Let's just go straight to the first question. How does BrightNight view India as a market?
Yeah, so India for BrightNight is, of course, a very strategic market. The selection of the country was done by BrightNight US long back, roughly around 3 years back, wherein they realized there are very few markets globally which offer the kind of size and scale this country offers, the kind of maturity of the sector this country offers, and the promising policy and market landscape which it offers. I think all these factors kind of contributed to BrightNight US's decision to enter into or invest into India. Now, even after investment decision by BrightNight Global, India has been continuing to improve even in last 3 years. Our ambitious goal of 500 gigawatt plus by 2030 is very, very crucial and very, very positively seen by global investors. Second thing about India, which has happened more in last 3 years, is the maturity of the market in terms of the type and variety of renewable projects and products. We are no more talking about just plain wind and solar, but we are talking about much more complex, dispatchable renewable projects, which will make this decarbonization journey or energy transition journey much more faster, deeper, and very interesting from all the stakeholders' perspective. And on last point, which I would say is the development of the ecosystem and addition of the demand, not just because India is a growing country or an emerging country and industrial activity will keep going up, but electrification of multiple industrial processes, electrification of transport, electrification of, electrification of basically fuels, and new demand being thrown in the grid by data centers, electric vehicles, and now the green fuels, which include green ammonia, green hydrogen. All these factors have made India very interesting and very, I should say, compelling investment opportunity from global investors' perspective.
Right. So, Naveen, the other thing that we wanted to understand, India and the United States have very closely collaborating on several of the new technologies in the energy domain, whether it is for critical minerals, whether it is for solar supply chains, or whether it is for green hydrogen supply chains, and democratic supply chains, as we now call these new supply chains. In that light, I had two supplementary questions. To what extent do you think, one is, how do you see BrightNight contributing to this energy transition in India? And since you are also a US headquartered company and have a global perspective, how do you think that this Indo-US relationship can, help companies like BrightNight, to accelerate this transition?
Sure, Rishi. So, first part, how would BrightNight contribute to India's energy goals, which are pretty ambitious? So, I think India is that way, as you rightly mentioned, is a democratic market. And I'll elaborate further on that. India is one of those markets which allows fair and full access to the market and the ecosystem, even by international investors.
Mhm.
Power is a subsector of infrastructure, and infrastructure in many countries is a very, very local matter. So local players generally get undue advantage. India is one of those markets, within the globe, which allows that fair and full access to the market. So that is very important. And having said so, there are enough number of players in the market. So we don't claim that we will be the one who will be kind of doing the energy transition on our own. We are very confident and committed to play our part. And our part is also very focused that we will focus on multi-tech, dispatchable, round-the-clock projects, which take a lot of engineering capabilities, a lot of financing capabilities, a lot of execution capabilities, which will enable decarbonization of the grid, taking out of fossil-based capacity from the grid much faster, much cheaper. So there will be players who will be doing different kinds of projects, but BrightNight India is going to play its part by focusing on bit complex renewable energy projects in the phase one. In phase two, we would to non-electrical, or let's say beyond electrification, green solutions as well. That will be maybe a couple of years down the line, where we would want to play our role in other industrial decarbonization activities, including green fuels and so on and so forth. So that is our plan or vision about or around our role towards contributing to India's energy transition journey. Part one.
Mhm.
Now, part two of your question is how can Indo-US relationship add to this? So yes, we are of the firm view that this relationship between these two democratic countries has been improving, and we are optimistic that this would only go in the positive and the right direction. Now, since we are in the business of developing projects which require policy stability, policy support, and a lot of local inputs, to that extent, the inputs from that partnership would be limited. But on the other side, the partnership which is allowing, as you rightly mentioned, democratic supply chain, access to technology, access to financing, because US, as we all know, is significantly deeper capital markets, be it debt or equity, and then of course adopting best global industry practices. BrightNight India would leverage these aspects of Indo-US business relationships and would try to accelerate the contribution which we intend to do.
Right. So, Naveen, very well articulated, where you've raised quite a few important points like finances, the complex track transition that will happen, complex technologies like FDRE and complex technologies like FDRE and round the clock power. These two issues, they're very important for the growth of the RE sector. The second question, which arises from your explanation of how in the Indo-US relationship can accelerate this transition. For what's its worth, BrightNight is also a representative of the US business and economy in India. And in that US, as an entity which has come and set up operations in India, you will have a unique view. The company is not from here. It has gained expertise in business and other parts of business in globally, especially in the US. What are the key challenges and opportunities that you see in India's renewable energy sector?
Sure, Rishi. So I'll start with opportunities first
Yeah.
to stick on the positive side. So opportunity wise, I think first and foremost, I might be repeating myself, is the size and scale of the opportunity. That is massive. India is one of those rare markets where it's not about just energy transition or converting your black or brown energy capacities to green, but we
Mhm.
also have significantly growing demand. Our grid size is expected to double within next 7 to 8 years. So we are
Mhm.
not only going to add much more green capacity to supply incremental demand, but
Mhm.
we would also do what rest of the world is doing, which is shifting of old capacities from black or brown to green. So that is first and foremost the biggest opportunity.
Mm.
The second is the development of differentiated projects. So again, many countries in the world are trying to do renewable projects, but the kind of advancement of projects and products India is doing, I think that is very interesting, and that is very unprecedented. FDREs and RTCs are, and especially given the complexity of these projects, not just combining two technologies, but letting them follow the load and supplying the power when it is needed, not supplying the power when it is just generated, I think takes a lot of efforts. And that's where we are going to focus. So that second opportunity which India market throws, all other markets might do it much later, but I think India is leading it from the front, and that too with very good and high quality tenders and bankable projects and enabling policies and supporting regulations. So that is very impressive opportunity, which is being seen as a very large opportunity by global investors, be it equity or debt. Now, third opportunity is apart from electrification of the grid or of the loads and greening of the electricity demand, other industrial decarbonization by going towards greener fuels or greener processes, green steel, green cement, green data centers, green agriculture, green buildings. I think the opportunity basket is going to be very, very large and broad in India market. And that is what investors like ourselves are looking at from external world's perspective when it comes to India. So that's about opportunities. Enough and more. Last, I would add one more to it. This is the grid modernization, right? So
Mm.
India, because of massive size, is again at the unique spot where we are investing into the grid and making grid ready for absorbing more variable renewables together. So I don't want to take names of the countries, but there were countries who went to or wanted to go green faster, but their grid infrastructure did not support it. And then they had to take a pause and then they invested into the grid. India is doing it parallelly. So the grid modernization opportunity and investment opportunity in the grid to make grid high-tech grid, or let's say a grid which has enough flexibility and variability along with the stability and reliability, I think that's going to be very important. So that's about opportunities. Now quickly answering your challenges questions. So I think India has its own set of issues because of partially because of democracy, partially because we are a highly populous country trying to be very ambitious, trying to do multiple things together. So that sometimes poses challenges while trying to deliver projects or businesses. So our challenges are not unique. I think some of them are related to infrastructure development in the country, which includes basically infrastructure of evacuation, in general infrastructure, be it other supporting infrastructure or social infrastructure. And third is the land. Land, as we all know, is very critical piece in delivering these projects. And availability of land in India is, of course, limited, unlike many other countries. And the process to acquire land and get it ready for non-agricultural activity is a time-taking, effort-taking process. So that actually becomes driver of your pace. How fast you can deliver is a function of how fast can you acquire hundreds or even thousands of acres of land, right? So that is one of the challenges. Not that India is not doing enough in this area. I think in last 1.5 decades, a lot of states have done a lot of improvements in their land acquisition and land allocation process. But I think we have still enough room for improvement. Now, other challenge which I would say is little bit more long-term policy stability and regulatory visibility, because this government is trying to do a lot of ambitious things together. Sometimes that poses challenge to one particular set of stakeholders, and that causes disruption in the supply chain planning and business planning. So that's another thing. Little bit of more long-term policy would be very useful, because infrastructure projects are all for 30 years, right? Not for 3 years. So if we give long-term policy visibility, I think that will go a long way in terms of development of these projects. Few other challenges, though we have limited time, but
I wanted to ask you a supplementary question. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. There's a very interesting point that you mentioned, that India is doing a lot of things parallelly, building their transmission and building their installed capacity bases. And in these two endeavors require a lot of technological planning and technological services. BrightNight also offers a lot of RE related technology services. One I remember is Power Alpha, which is an AI tool. So, how can Power Alpha, as you yourself mentioned, India is is the biggest single grid in the world, and it has handled as high as 250 gigawatts of peak energy demand at a point, and has largely been stable. But as we grow, more RE capacities come in the grid, we'll need a lot more planning, we'll need a lot more demand assessments. How does tools like Power Alpha help in this technological transformation?
Sure, Rishi. So Power Alpha, as you yourself rightly mentioned, is a AI-enabled system optimization tool, and what that does is either it gives you lowest cost of energy for a given output requirement or given load requirement, or vice versa, it optimizes your capex for the given shape. So either you can do capex optimization or you can do shape optimization, and both are very critical when you want to deliver large scale dispatchable or round the clock or FDRE projects. So that's the beauty of the Power Alpha tool. Now, it has multiple features. It actually starts working from the very early stages of development of the projects till the very final stage, which is operations and maintenance, asset management. So development, construction, then stabilization, and then operations. The tool can work across all the stages of the project life cycle, right? That's the beauty. Another thing is, because this is AI enabled or machine learning enabled tool, this tool itself evolves every year, every month, every quarter. So the tool was different, let's say 2 years back. Tool is different today, and tool will be much better, much improved 2 years down the line. our
Right.
effort, our effort with this tool is to deliver, continuously deliver high quality projects which meet customers' requirement. And customers here are both utilities as well as corporates.
So, Naveen, our time is running short. I have last two quick questions for you.
Sure.
One is, you have operations in several geographies. You are US based. What is that firms like BrightNight, specifically firms which are based or headquartered out of United States, can, add to India's clean energy journey?
Sure, Rishi. So in terms of addition, as I mentioned, I think 3 or 4 aspects would be very critical, because both countries are very democratic countries and very, very progressive and positive mindset countries. One is capitalizing on each other's strengths. US has its own strengths like innovation, technology, financing, while India has its own strengths, which are low cost engineering, low cost manufacturing, and highly skilled technical people. So I think combining both these things is going to be critical, and that's where companies like BrightNight are going to play a very important role. The second point is basically adding innovation to the whole business of renewables. As I mentioned, we would be focusing on combining all the technologies with innovative tools and innovative solutions, so as to expedite or accelerate the energy transition journey. And then, of course, global best practices of developing and managing large scale infrastructure projects. Today it is for electrification of electricity. Tomorrow it will be for other industrial decarbonization processes, including clean fuel, whether it is for aviation, whether it is for marine, or whether it is for any other hard to abate sector. So the decarbonization journey is going to take a lot from US and vice versa. So I think both countries together can actually make things happen much faster and in a much better manner.
So, Naveen, as you are aware that we are around the time where budget is about to come out. So, what are your expectations, Bright Knight's expectations from this year's, from the upcoming budget?
Sure. So, though I think we all have seen enough requests being made to federal government when it comes to budget planning, and government has been doing enough in last 3 to 4 budget sessions. But this time, I think if they are able to focus on 3, 4 things, then that will be very good. One is basically allocating more for storage and green hydrogen. That's one. Because adding renewable capacity, be it wind or solar or any other capacity, is one part, which is what a lot of IPPs are doing. But I think enabling storage is going to be very important, and storage at all the levels: generation, transmission, and distribution, and even at the distributed level of storage. That is very important. So I would expect more allocation, more focus towards storage. Second is making capital flows a little bit more efficient, both equity and debt. So improving tax anomalies when it comes to capital inflow in the country. I think that will be second expectation. Third would be more focus on this distributed solar. I think this Prime Minister's old existing schemes, whether it is PM Suryaghar Muft Bijli Yojana, PM Suryaghar Yojana, all those things I think would get or should get more fillip, more support. Next one is maybe focusing on more local manufacturing. Now, and there I have slightly different expectation is apart from just promoting manufacturing, if we can focus more on value-added manufacturing, not just last mile of the manufacturing,
That's a great input. Yeah.
which is just assembly. I want them to go back 2 steps in the supply chain or the value chain. Promote that. That will create permanent jobs. That will give you manufacturing supremacy, which we all want. And that will reduce our import bill and our dependence on other countries for this energy transition.
Right. Any other thing which is critical largely for infrastructure? I think transmission players people in transmission are already talking about that we need to fast track it. Though government is trying to do it, but transmission comes with its own problems and issues. You think we need to push more on transmission?
No, absolutely. And again, there also I have one more additional incremental thought. One is allowing more private sector participation in transmission is one part. Second is maybe now going back to STU projects planning, because CTU project planning has done enough and more, but because CTU incentives are about to get phased down, as we all know, right? In the next 3-4 years. So I think time has come where we start focusing on STU connected projects. But the problem which STU connected projects had, which was bankable PPAs, I think if government can look at those examples of REWA of MP, right, or Gujarat state programs, I think if more states can adopt those kind of programs so that we can add more broad-based renewables to the grid, I think that will do much greater for the grid, and we will achieve our 500 gigawatt goal much faster. And not just 500, actually 500 is a target for 2030. I'm talking about 1500 gigawatt kind of a target by, let's say, 2036, 2038, because that is what is needed. As per some of the global studies, we would need 4,000 gigawatts of renewables by 2045 or sometime thereabout. So we need to look at and solve for that problem also. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Naveen. That was quite insightful. I think you really put a lot of focus on technology transfer, capital generation, sharing of technologies, creating a democratic supply chain. I think these are the buzzwords. Of course, putting more efforts into value-added manufacturing, which is something that's really interesting and makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for sharing with us your thoughts. Thank you, Naveen.
Thanks, Rishi. My pleasure.